In the biggest moments of your life, or in your darkest hour, will you be enough? Can you count on yourself, and can others count on you? If everything you rely on was taken from you, and you had to stand alone in front of the world and define yourself, what would you say? I am James Dean Hensel. I am a son of God, created with purpose. I am the son of Myron Hensel, a man who would not be moved. I am the husband to Kristen Hensel, my fish girl. I am the father of Taylor and Brittany Hensel, daughters of promise. I am a challenger, exhorter, and an encourager born to fight. I will run to the battle, for in the battle I find peace. I commit to live my life anchored in my values. I commit to make choices and decisions based on my code. I believe in fight, work, hope, faith, team, family, excellence, purpose, responsibility, and love. I will have the strength to do what is right. Honor is the foundation of my code. I commit to live my life anchored in my values. I will represent myself, my family, and my country with the character and dignity necessary to serve with purpose and with hope.
Hey everybody, I'm Colby Jubenville, and welcome to the Center for Student Coaching and Success. In the studio, as always, behind the board, we got Mitch Pryor. Mitch, thank you for being here. And with me today is my good friend, and we've already done a podcast this morning, Mr. Jim Hensel. He is our content expert on emotional intelligence, and the reason that I chose Jim to do this, as I said at the start of every video, is that Jim does two things very well. Number one, he serves it up in a way that you can get it. And then number two, I believe the way that he does it is so culturally relevant. And so let me tell you what I mean by that. On the way over today from the center, we were at the center today doing a podcast. Sir. On the way over, he said something so powerful to me, and I'm going to put you on the spot because I won't get it right. But what you said I thought made so much sense, and it was something about getting all this knowledge and then doing what?
You know, we were talking about the college campus, and it's, you know, driving on the college campus for me is always a kind of a cool experience.
Yeah.
All this knowledge, all this learning going on in all these buildings.
Yeah.
And I get a chance to be around a lot of really smart college students. I think in order to take that knowledge,
yeah,
and even some of the wisdom, the difference between knowledge and wisdom you get through experience.
Yeah.
So I think that for my children, it was a big deal. Hey, I wanted them to go to college, not just for the knowledge, but I wanted them to gain some wisdom and to grow and experience over those four years.
I love that.
You know, balance your checkbook, pay your rent.
Yeah. Grow up
while gaining this knowledge. So we've got some wisdom. We've got a bunch of knowledge. We've had really smart, amazing people teach us a bunch.
Yeah.
But how do we activate that?
Yeah.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah.
That's what the center is about. If you don't know you,
then you can't activate.
you can't activate the knowledge. And how many times have you been around a really smart person who can't use it?
Yeah.
Now, I was the opposite. I wasn't the really smart person.
Maybe that's why we get along so well.
Right. I was the guy who kind of, the hard knocks of life kind of bumped me over in the right place. But
Yeah.
I think this whole idea of defining yourself, who are you, what do you believe?
Yeah.
That activates and empowers this knowledge. And then
Yeah.
we get out into the culture and we become somebody who really can make a difference and contribute.
And it gives me chills to hear you say that, because I really think that's the challenging gap, right? I mean, that is the challenging gap between approaching graduation,
Right.
and gainful employment.
Right.
And so these kids, I really do believe this, make a bet every day. They bet their money, they bet their time, they bet their resources, they bet their energy,
Right.
that we do have the ability to not only impart that knowledge, that wisdom, that growing up,
Yep.
but also to give them a runway to find that success that they want to find.
A lot of times I think you've done it and I've done it when I've interviewed students. What they're worried about isn't what they learned in the classes. They got that stuff down. They made great scores on the tests.
Yeah.
They're just not sure where they're going to go and what they're going to do based on who they are. That's the cry you hear. Like, man, I don't really know who I am.
And maybe some of them cry about both.
Yeah. Well, you're probably right.
And that brings us all today to the final
challenge. The final challenge in part 1.
Which is adversity. Adversity. And if I think about adversity, I think about several key people in my life. I think about Wayne Williams, my stepdad, who's ultimately my dad. He took my life over at 1, and I went through the Wayne Williams School of Better People, right?
Right.
And so the adversity that I think he set in front of me ultimately led me up to this moment to be here with you today.
Right.
I think about Tommy Raniger at Millsaps College, my football coach, and the challenges that he laid in front of me. And one of the things that I believe that's so important through this process that we have to have happen for other people is we have to teach people how to use adversity to accelerate growth.
Right.
And I think that's a very much a performance-based approach, and I know yours is different.
Right.
And so I think it's important as we think about this. That's the coach coming out of me, right?
Right.
We're going to use this to make you stronger, bigger, faster,
right,
like the $6 million man.
Right.
But you see adversity in the context of grind your B. Grind your B. It's not what you do, it's who you be.
Right.
You see that differently.
Yeah, that term B, that's your talents, your values, and your purpose. We've defined that.
Yep.
I think that these challenges, these first 7 challenges were important because I think they were hurdles we needed to jump so that this idea of creating language and developing some sort of philosophy works.
Right.
If you can't deal with adversity, what does it matter that you know who you are?
Yeah.
I think, and this is challenge 7 because to me it really is the final and most important challenge that fundamentally nothing good's going to happen to you unless you go through adversity, and that's why I use that word grind. If you're not, it's not ease your way to developing your B or to doing that every day. It's not easy. I understand that the adversity that life throws at me is an opportunity for me to practice who I be.
Yeah.
That's the overarching philosophy. And for me, when I went through this process, man, I was tired of getting hit. I was tired of adversity. I wanted a break. And I came out of that dark spot that we've talked about, realized, and it was flat, depressed on the floor.
Yep.
And then I came to the realization that, holy smokes, you know what? Like, life's going to throw me curveballs all the time. And that's something that I needed to not run away from, that I needed to run at. And so when I see adversity now, I like to serve it up in a way people can get it. I like to connect some sort of language that's different to it. So I refer to adversity as a dragon.
Yeah.
I like to think of it that way. I love the whole medieval knight on his charger, in his armor, charging at the dragon. So that's kind of how I see me tackling adversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the dragons themselves are the adversity, and we all have them.
Right.
Why did you use adversity? Why did you wait to talk about adversity into the 7th challenge? Why not the first?
Because I think it's the one that it ties it all together at the end. Like, if you don't understand that adversity equals opportunity, well, everything else is really kind of pointless in my mind.
Yeah, the greatest philosopher, Bob Dylan, I think, once said that there's no success like failure.
Right.
Right? And so
if you're not willing to fail,
yeah,
if you're not willing to make mistakes at max effort,
yeah,
you can't get better. It's just impossible. And it's a challenge for the culture that we live in because so much of our culture creates ease for us. The microwave world, you say it, you get it, And so I don't think that's in itself bad, but I also think it's super important to remember that, hey, listen, whatever I know for sure in my life, whatever good I have, that's something that I was grinding for. I had to work hard to get it, especially stuff that lasts, something that's meaningful that lasts over time.
So you talk about these dragons that we create. You talk about dragons that someone else is responsible for, that lands right where we are.
Right.
And you talk about dragons that we purposely chase to grow stronger. Talk about the difference between those 3.
I think that it's important to fight the right sized dragon. So some folks are running from adversity. Some folks are diving straight at the dragon and they're not prepared.
I think it's important to understand adversity in terms of I need to bite off what I can chew. Now, I get that we can't control adversity in our lives all the time.
Sure.
I get that things are going to happen to us that we can't control. I guess here's the principle. I would rather be the hunter than the hunted. That's how I'm looking at it.
And that fits right. I laugh because that fits right in with when you stand up and declare who you be.
Right.
It fits right that you run into the fight.
And I think in that dark space that I was in, I was definitely being hunted. I wasn't the guy who was playing offense. I think that if we're talking about, language for the game, the grind your bee game, when it comes to adversity, we want to be playing offense.
Yeah.
We can't always control it. I understand that. I'm not saying that's possible, but I at least want to be playing offense.
I think about my own life, and sometimes I would be in the middle of adversity, and I'd say, how did I get there?
Right.
I didn't go running into it.
Right. Well, there's no question. That's why I kind of gave these 3 types of dragons.
Yeah.
I think they're, and these are general, obviously, and I was trying to quantify this for my life. I was trying to give it language so I could make it a tool. I'm not saying this is the only thing or the only way or this handles it all. Once again, I just wanted to be the hunter, not the hunted. Right. I wanted to play offense. And so I think the first one was there's dragons that we create. And what I meant there was, I'm making mistakes, I'm screwing up, and the adversity that I'm facing is of my own creation.
What would you say are some typicals, because the activity, along with the QR code, is to identify the dragons,
right,
and then confront it,
right,
and grow stronger. So what might be some examples of a typical college student at MTSU or any other school that has a dragon related to the one they created, a dragon related to someone else that is responsible for that landed in front of us, or a dragon that we purposely choose to use to grow stronger? Why don't you give an example of each one?
I can tell my story. My story was showing up at a university, having been a fairly accomplished student in high school, and then really not understanding who I be at all, not being grounded, not really understanding what my beliefs were, and becoming literally a drunk who never went to class.
Yeah.
I created all that. I've told the story. I ended up being kicked out of school, losing a scholarship, and being expelled from the university, and that was all by my design. That's an example of a dragon that I created. And I think now, looking back at it, it was I didn't know who I was and what I believed.
That ultimately cost you a national championship ring.
I didn't, I would have been there at that university when they won the national championship for sure. I look back at that. I don't mind regret. Regret it's not something that destroys my life, but it helps me measure how far I've come. So yes, most certainly. That's a dragon that I created in my own life. It wasn't anybody else that did that to me.
What about someone that landed on you?
In my life, I went through divorce.
Yeah.
I went through being a single father. That wasn't all her fault by any means.
Yeah.
But there were parts of that landed hard on me that I had to deal with. I think relationships, family kinds of things. All the time there are other people's problems. Heck, it can be just as simple as your roommate didn't pay their half of the rent.
Right.
And you're dealing with it because your name's on the lease.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of adversity that we face in our life that's really not, we didn't generate it, but we got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And for me, some of that stuff, family stuff, was things that I had to deal with, things that were generational.
And then the third is things that we choose to purposely grow stronger.
I think this is that fight the right size dragon for me. For me, I love physical adversity. I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to develop. So I think for me, physically, mentally, and spiritually, I have got to be placing adversity in my life so that I can continue to grow. I have done things in the past like, or I'm working with a client. I'll have them. I call it the adversity challenge. We'll discover something in their life that really, really sends them sideways, and then say, well, hey, challenge it. For me, at one point, I had a buddy who owned a FedEx route. I wanted to make some extra money. And so I filled in and helped out during the Christmas season on his FedEx route. And I hate the cold. I mean, I'm telling you, like, if you knew this part of me, you would laugh even harder. I mean, I cannot stand the cold. I remember my dad coming into my bedroom when I was in high school, opening my window and yanking off the blanket and singing this goofy song about get up, it's cold. I just hate the cold. And the cold has been something that messed with me mentally for years. Like, if it was cold outside, it would literally keep me from being present.
Yeah.
And that's something I wanted to deal with in my life. So I decided during the Christmas season in Colorado to drive the FedEx truck in shorts and a short sleeve shirt.
That makes sense.
Because I was going to deal with that. Now, listen, I'm not encouraging anybody to do something that's not safe.
So this is one of these purposeful ones.
This is a purposeful one. I knew I was going to be able to get back to the truck, obviously, in the heater.
Yeah.
But people looked at me like I was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm carrying packages in, getting people to, sign on a little computer. And what are you doing in short? It's snowing outside.
Right.
It was all about purposefully dealing with the fact that listen, I am not going to let the cold or the idea that it's cold out have any more grip in my life. And so I think we all have little things like that.
Yeah.
For me now, it's go to the CrossFit gym and push myself physically. That's adversity that I'm putting in my path that keeps me strong.
Why do you say adversity equals opportunity?
I know for me personally that every good thing that's ever happened to me came after a fight, after a struggle, after working hard, after being gritty, after grinding.
And why do you think that is?
I think really honestly, it's nature. It really is the baseline of how we're set up as human beings.
Yeah.
I think that when we're given too much, and we see it even in I try to be balanced about this in my own children's lives, but when we're given too much, it's something that we don't appreciate completely. The things that we have to fight for, the things that we have to develop and work hard at and get, we appreciate, and those things make a difference in our life.
The things that we have to fight for are the things that we appreciate.
Absolutely. For me, that's what it was.
Yeah.
You understand, I'm being careful here. I'm not saying that some of the things that we're given aren't a blessing to our life. I'm talking about the things that we want to make stick in our life. If you're the kind of person, what I can tell you is if you're the kind of person who runs from all adversity, you will never become 100% of the person that you were created to be.
And that's what this whole process is about.
That's what the process is about.
So really, all the other chapters, all the other challenges up until this point, it's almost like the last ingredient that you got to mix into all of this that's swirling around the entire time is this adversity piece.
Absolutely.
Because without it, you cannot become 100% of who you're supposed to be.
You know, if you're making chili, and I'm not very good at that. We can talk to my brother. He's great at making chili.
Yeah.
But you put the wrong ingredients in, and it's not going to taste very good.
Yeah.
And this adversity, you got to have a little bit of that. As you're developing who you are, as you're going through the process of defining yourself, as you're creating this idea of your be. Yeah. Here's what I'm good at. Here are my talents. Here's what I believe, and ultimately my purpose. You've got to understand that final ingredient in the game is adversity.
And if they were going to scan on this QR code, what would they find there?
We're going to talk about in depth how to identify some of that, and to make sure that you know what that is and be very intentional about what that is in your life. What's the adversity in your life right now that you can't seem to beat?
Yeah.
And how do we do that? How do we use some of these tools we've created to get on top of that and to be playing offense? So I think the major part is identifying it, understanding it, and then attacking it.
So that is the last challenge.
Challenge 7, yes, sir.
That's the final challenge. And so we've been through this entire process now that brings us ultimately into the second phase, which is designing your be.
Absolutely.
So now that you understand these hurdles that are in front of you, now you can take a step back and really ask yourself, what is it that I want to define?
Absolutely.
What is it that I want to design?
Absolutely.
That is Challenge 7. We appreciate you being with us today. Hopefully this video series is helping you walk through this process. And again, I love what Jim said about taking all this knowledge that is on this college campus. And make no mistake about it, the people here that instruct other people truly have the ability to give it away. And once you do give it away, it's your job to create that runway to take that out into the world. And to do that, we believe you got to know who you are, we got to know what you do, and know why you matter.
That's right.
To the world. I'm Colby Gibbonville. I'd like to thank my guest and friend Jim Hensel.
Thank you, sir.
And your content on Grind Your Bee. And we'll meet you right on the other side for section 2 of the book, which is Designing Your Bee.